What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and another video rebuilding this CR125. Now, if you've been following along with the build, you know exactly where we were up to with the last video, but if you're new to the channel, then let me just catch you up. So this bike I've been building from scratch. So I've been sourcing used parts from all over the internet in whatever condition they come and restoring them to make them look as they did when they come out of the factory. Now, in the last video where we left off, completed the rear wheel. So I'd polished up the hub and the rim, I bought new spokes, installed a new inner tube and a new tyre and a new spacers and the rear brake disc. Now in this video I need to do the same again for the front wheel. I also want to share with you the process of how I polished the aluminium parts to make them look as they did when they first came from the factory. So it's quite a long process, but the end result is really satisfying. So roll the intro and then we'll start the video. So it's actually one of my favourite parts of doing this restoration is to take the aluminium parts that need restoring, cleaning them, sanding them, grinding down any casting lines or scratches and dings and polishing up the metal to make them look brand new as they came from the factory. And basically I go through this process for all the metal parts that are on the bike to make them look brand new again. And I want to share with you what I do. So if you want to find out how I do that, then keep watching till the end of this video. And if you want to catch yourself up first, there's a playlist up in the corner, which is the entire playlist so far to get to this point. Do me a favor, watch the playlist, start from the beginning, catch yourself up. And if you like these type of videos, then consider hitting that subscribe button. So let me show you what I'm going to be restoring. I've already made a little bit of a start. These are the engine hanger brackets. So they start off looking something like this. And I've already made a start on this one. So don't know if that's showing up there. And basically I've done that to any metal part that is on this bike, whether it's the frame, the subframe, the swing arm, the wheel, rims and the hubs. So there is the front wheel hub. Obviously I don't know if somebody's at some point tried to spray it black, but it's really corroded, it's really rusty. And I'm going to show you how it ends up looking something like this. So this is the front brake master cylinder, which I've already been starting on. I don't know if you can see that, but I need to do the front wheel. So the first step is to clean all the parts, and I'll be using this alloy wheel cleaner, which is amazing for cleaning up aluminium and degreasing it. And I'll be scrubbing them with these steel wire brushes, then wiping them down before moving on to the next step. Now comes for the really labour intensive part, which is the polishing of the metal. So smoothing out any scratches, any dings, removing any casting lines and working from a coarse grit up to a fine grit to get the surface of the metal looking absolutely primo. I've got these, I think they call them satin wheels. Some of them are like single layer, and then I've got some for larger areas. Use the larger ones on larger surfaces of metal so that you can keep that surface looking smooth. You don't sort of wear a groove or anything into the metal, so use the stacked ones for those. And I work from a coarse grit up to a fine grit. And then the same sort of thing, I've got drill attachments with the same sort of abrasive material on there. I'll leave a link down in the description where you can get these kind of things. So I've got 6mm shank with different grades of grit on these drill attachments. And then for the really tight little small areas up, they also come on a Dremel. So again, I'll leave a link down in the description where you can pick yourself some of these up. Come in all different kinds of shapes so you can get into the tight areas that the bench grinder can't get to. Some of them are sort of like dome shape, some of them are a bit more like a wheel. And then there's these ones which are a cylinder that goes into, this is a drill attachment one with a 6mm shank. And it's a case of just working on that material, starting off with a coarse grit, smoothing out any scratches and dings, and then moving up from a coarse to a medium to a fine until you get that mirror smooth finish on the metal. So with that all being said, parts are clean, I'm ready to go. It's time to hit those parts and get them looking absolutely factory mint. I won't bore you with having to watch the whole thing, so here's a little time lapse of me working on those parts. Okay, so I'm finished with all those parts, and now that everything is all done, it's time to rebuild that front wheel and get this thing into a rolling chassis again. So I have this part here, this is the front hub. It takes a lot of effort, but the results are amazing using those Scotch-Brite abrasive wheels. I have these parts here. I mean, like I said, this is one of my favourite parts of this restoration. It doesn't make sense to only be buying new parts. It's gonna be way more expensive as well. So if I can find used parts on the internet, places like eBay, and get them turning out looking like this, then I'm more than happy. And it means that this bike is gonna turn out to be a true restoration rather than just a rebuild of something new with all new parts. It's definitely the most rewarding part of the process. I get a real satisfaction out of turning rusty old parts into something that look like this. So if you appreciate all the effort that went into making parts look like this and you're enjoying this restoration, then do me a favour and slap that like button. It really helps the channel out and I'd really appreciate it. But with all that being said, it's time to crack on. I got new spokes to go along with the restored rim and the hub. So let's rebuild the front wheel. Well guys, new wheel is done. A couple of issues though. I've managed to puncture the brand new inner tube, trying to get it in. Trying to get that tyre on using only those tyre spoons. It's just not fun. I've managed to puncture the inner tube, so I'm gonna have to get another inner tube at some point, but I don't know, I'll probably just take it down to a shop to get them to take that tyre off, put the new inner tube in. That is a battle that I do not want to have to do again. And the other issue is the front brake is on, but I seem to be missing one of the rotor bolts, but it's in. Ignore the axle and the spacers because they're the original ones at the moment, and I just wanted to get the front wheel back on so I can move it all around. But it's a rolling chassis again. Do you want to see it? And also, before I reveal the bike to you, I've skipped ahead a couple of chapters, so there's some extras on there. So, you want to see the bike? Well, here is the rolling chassis of the CR125. She's looking fresh. So let me show you. Well guys, what do you think? We're really starting to make progress now on this build. I'm getting so excited for the end result. The day that I can finally get to fire this bike up and go out and ride. This has been an incredible project for me, something that I'm really enjoying. I started it all because of lockdown and being furloughed from work, but this is turning into something like a dream project. I really want to make this bike something special. I'm restoring it from the bottom up, from every nut and bolt, starting from the frame, completely from scratch. And I feel like I've made a ton of progress. I mean, you see the bike there now with its plastics on. It's really starting to come together. All the hard work of putting in with the metal to polish that up and make that look factory is really paying off. It's very satisfying to see everything start to come together. I want to say a massive shout out to Bolt Hardware. They don't sponsor this video, but without their bolt pack for the CR125, I'd be in no man's land. So they make an incredible product, and whenever I've wanted to have fresh bolts, if I've been missing a bolt, I know that it's there in the track pack. Everything's zinc plated, it looks superb, and it is a ton of value for the money because they would have just cost a fortune trying to get OEM ones. So it's an amazing product. I want to say shout out to you guys, Bolt Hardware. I'll leave a link in the description so you can get this bolt pack because I've used it endlessly throughout this project. All the seat bolts, the shrouds, the radiator bolts. There's so much value in that pack and I would be lost without it. I would have had to spend a fortune at OEM. So shout out to you guys for making an incredible product. Hope you are as excited for this build as I am because We're over halfway, I would say. The next big job is to source engine parts and turn this bike into a runner. If you're enjoying this build as much as I am, then do me a favor and hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. There's loads of fans out there of motocross bikes and restorations and bike builds and things like that. So let's tell YouTube that this content is out there and people should be able to find it. So hit that like button for me, leave a comment, share it, and hit subscribe. If this is the first video that you're watching of mine, then make sure you go out and check the playlist. I've documented the whole process up to this point, so there's a playlist there with a dozen or so videos so far of making this bike. I would love for you to check that out and catch yourself up to date. If you've been subscribed from the start or you've jumped in halfway and you're still subscribed, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys watching and commenting. I love how stoked you are for how this build is turning out, because I'm excited too. And I hope you stick around to see it through until the end, until we have a complete bike. So until the next video where we've got more parts, take care of yourselves. Peace from me. I'll see you in the next one.
You know I got it made. Yeah. Things been going my